Hey everyone, so are you ready to really dig into what makes a brand pop?
I'm ready.
Because today we're diving deep into branding with this
Okay.
Poly Atlas.
Nice.
It's a branding wiki
Mm-hmm.
by the Polyphon Group,
Okay.
and they've packed so much good stuff in here.
Yeah. It's pretty dense
Yeah.
when you first look at it.
We're going to try and unpack it.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, I thought it was interesting how they define what a brand even is.
Okay.
Because, most people think logo,
Yeah,
right?
it's just the logo. It's the colors.
Colors.
Yeah. It's the font.
But they break it down into 3 parts
Okay.
and how they're all interconnected.
Right.
So you've got your brand entity,
Okay.
which is like the heart of it all.
Yeah.
It's what the business actually is.
Yeah, like their values, their actions,
Mostly how they treat employees.
how they treat the planet, all that.
100%. Then there's brand identity, which is how they present themselves to the world.
Yeah.
So that's where your logo comes in.
Your messaging, your website, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, and this is where it gets interesting,
Okay.
they have brand perception,
Yeah.
which is how the public actually sees them.
Right. Because you can try to put out a certain image, but if people aren't feeling it, it's not going to land.
It's so true. And they have this great example in here
Okay.
about, imagine you're walking down the street
Yeah.
and you pass a bakery
Mm-hmm.
and that smell hits you.
Oh, I love that.
That's a brand touch point.
It is. It's so true.
Even though it's not a logo,
Yeah.
it's not a website, it's evoking something.
Absolutely. Our senses are so powerful.
Yeah.
And when a brand can tap into that, that's when it becomes memorable.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it made me realize, how much is outside of your control?
Right.
You can try to control that brand identity so tightly.
You can have the best logo, the best website, but if somebody has a bad experience, or if they hear something negative, that's going to shape their perception.
And they talked about that in here.
Oh, really?
Imagine hearing a rumor about, your favorite restaurant.
Oh, I hate that.
That, it's not clean or something.
Ugh. Even if it's not true, it plants that seed of doubt.
Exactly. And you might not even realize it, but it's affecting your perception.
Yeah. It makes you hesitate.
Totally. So how do you even begin to, wrangle all of that?
Right. Where do you even begin?
And that's what I think is so cool about this Poly Atlas, is they don't sugarcoat it,
Okay.
that it's messy.
Yeah.
They actually say branding is multisensory.
Okay.
It's multidisciplinary.
Right.
It's continuous.
It never ends.
It never ends.
Yeah.
And it's like a collective thing.
It's not just one person sitting in a room coming up with this stuff.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so overwhelming when you think
Yeah.
about, creating a brand.
Right. It's more than just design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they break it down
Yep.
into
Yeah.
4 stages.
Okay.
And they call the first stage business development.
Okay, so before you even get to the logo,
Yes.
you got to figure out the business side of things.
And I think people, they want to skip that part,
Yeah, they just want to get to the fun stuff.
the fun stuff. But this is the foundation.
Here's the foundation.
It's all about, like they said, market research.
Right. You've got to know your audience, your competition,
Yeah.
what's out there.
And what problem are you solving?
Exactly. If you don't know why your business exists,
Totally.
you're not going to be able to brand it effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually had this whole list of questions in here
Okay.
that I found really helpful to, think through.
I'm sure they're in here for a reason.
Yeah.
These are the questions they get asked all the time, probably by,
Probably.
clients who are just starting out.
And they even talk about USP.
Oh, the unique selling proposition.
Yes. What is it that makes you stand out?
Because if you're just like everyone else, why should anybody choose you?
Exactly. It's like you're figuring out the personality of your business
Yes.
before you even give it a name or put a face to it.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that strong foundation,
Really?
the rest of it's just not going to work.
It's like putting lipstick on a pig, right?
Well, I mean, some people might like that,
Okay, fair enough.
but you know what I mean.
But yeah, it's not going to be authentic.
Exactly.
It's going to feel off.
And people can spot that a mile away these
Yeah,
days.
totally. Especially with social media.
Right. Everyone's a skeptic.
Yeah.
They can tell if you're being fake.
100%.
Yeah.
So once you have that foundation,
Okay.
what's the next step? How do you actually start bringing it to life?
So this is where it starts to get really fun
Okay.
because we're translating all of that research,
Yeah.
all of those insights into a tangible identity.
Right.
And this stage is all about brand identity design.
Oh, okay. So we're getting into the visuals now.
We're getting there.
Okay.
But first, we need to talk about brand strategy.
Oh, okay. So even more planning.
Well, think of it like this. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, right?
True.
Brand strategy is the blueprint for your brand.
That makes sense.
It's how you're going to communicate and connect with your audience.
Gotcha. So, like, what are some of the key elements of a brand strategy?
So there are a few things that you need to define.
Right.
Your brand voice,
Yeah.
your brand tone,
Okay.
and then those key messages that really make your brand stand out.
Key messages. Okay. I feel like I need a little help with voice and tone.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. Your brand voice is like your personality.
Okay.
Like, are you playful? Are you serious? Are you quirky?
Right, like Wendy's on Twitter.
Exactly.
That's
They're
all.
savage.
They have a very distinct brand voice.
Okay, so then what's brand tone?
So tone is more about the nuance of your communication. Nuance, okay.
So you might have a playful brand voice,
Okay.
but your tone could be either sarcastic or silly,
Oh, I see.
or even a little bit edgy.
Okay, and that's all going to depend on, like,
It all depends on your target audience
Right.
and the message you're trying to communicate.
so, like, Nike would have a different tone than, say, like, a children's clothing brand.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And then, of course, you have your key messages, which
Yeah.
are those short, memorable statements that communicate what your brand is all about.
Got it. So, like, Nikes would be, just do it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So we've got our voice,
Yes.
our tone, our key messages.
Right.
What's next?
Okay.
So we poured our heart and soul into crafting this amazing brand,
All the blood, sweat, and tears.
literally. Now, how do we actually get it out there into the world?
Right. It's time to set it free.
The guide calls this stage brand activation,
Okay.
which sounds kind of
It
intimidating.
does sound a little bit scary.
Like launch day.
Yeah. It's like all your hard work is about to be put to the test.
Exactly. And you're putting it out
For
there.
a better or worse.
Yeah, for the world to judge.
Exactly. But it's also the most exciting part.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all. This
Yeah.
is where you finally get to see your brand come to life.
So, like, what are some of the things that happen during this brand activation phase?
Well, it's all about getting your brand in front of your target audience.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that might involve launching your website,
Got it.
creating profiles on social media.
Right, because everyone's online these days.
Exactly.
And just, like, shouting it from the rooftops. Right.
Well, maybe not literally shouting from the rooftop.
Okay, maybe not literally.
But you want to make some noise, right?
Like, yes. Get people excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about making noise, it's about starting conversation.
Right, engaging with people.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, branding is all about building relationships.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you measure whether or not your brand activation is working?
That's a great question. And it's something that a lot of businesses struggle with.
Yeah, because it's not always as straightforward as, like, sales numbers.
Exactly. Because sometimes it takes a while for those results to show up.
So it's more about, like, are people talking about you?
Are they engaging with your content?
Are they recommending you to their friends?
All of that. And the Poly Atlas actually has a whole section on measuring brand perception.
Okay, so they give you some tools and tips.
They do. They talk about things like surveys, focus groups, social media analytics,
Okay.
even just paying attention to what people are saying about you online.
So there's a lot of listening and observing.
Exactly. It's like being a fly on the wall,
Right.
just seeing how people are responding to your brand.
Gotcha. So let's say you've done all that. You've launched your brand. You're measuring your results. Then what?
Well, this is where the final stage of the branding process comes in,
Okay.
and that's brand iteration.
Iteration. So it's like constantly evolving.
Exactly. Because branding is never truly finished.
Oh, man. It never ends, does it?
It never ends. But that's okay, because as the world changes, your brand needs to change with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you know, like, when to iterate? What are some of the signs?
Well, it could be anything from noticing a dip in your engagement
Okay.
to you're getting feedback that your messaging isn't resonating,
Right.
or even just feeling like your brand needs a refresh.
So, like, if your logo starts to feel a little bit dated
Exactly. Or maybe your target audience has evolved.
and you need to, like, update your brand to reflect that.
Absolutely. Brand iteration is all about staying relevant and keeping your brand fresh and exciting.
So it's like a never-ending cycle of listening, learning, and adapting.
Exactly. And the Poly Atlas really emphasizes that this is an ongoing process.
It's not something you just do once and then forget about it.
No, you have to be constantly evaluating and evolving your brand
Right.
to make sure it's still aligned with your business goals and resonating with your target audience.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We really have.
From defining what a brand even is to exploring all the different stages of the branding process.
Well, yeah, it's been a wild ride.
It has. But I've got to say, I feel like I have a much better understanding of what it takes to build a successful brand.
Me too. And you know what the best part is?
What's that?
Anyone can do it.
Seriously?
Yes. You don't have to be a big corporation with a huge budget to create a brand that connects with people.
So it's all about being clear on your values,
Yes.
understanding your audience, and being willing to put in the work.
Exactly. And the Poly Atlas is a great resource to help you do just that.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree. It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this branding adventure. Until next time, remember, your brand is your story. Make it one worth telling.